Well, Deputy President and Chairperson of the South African National AIDS Council, David Mabuza, has encouraged South Africans to get tested for HIV. In his message to South Africans on World AIDS Day, Mabuza stressed the importance of knowing one's HIV status and supporting those who are already living with HIV. Now, the theme for this World AIDS Day is Know Your Status. The main event will be held in Dobsonville in Soweto, where Mabuza will deliver the main address. And it's where we find our reporter Mashlako Komani, who is in Dobsonville. Mashlako, thank you very much indeed for your time. Look, it's a big day. It's a day to reflect on some of the challenges as well as the successes, I guess, with regards to fight against HIV and AIDS. What's happening there today?
Well, today we are, good morning, Blaine and the listeners. We are out here at the Dobsonville Stadium out in Soweto for the national event which marks or commemorates International World Day here in South Africa, and you know, the 30th celebration of that. And indeed, you are correct when you say that there have been challenges, but also the successes. We've seen how the ARV program in South Africa has been rolled out, has been improved, and we have seen a lot of South Africans being able to access these very important, the very important treatment for people living with this condition. But also, it's been great to see how society, well, South African society has moved in terms of the stigmatization of the condition as well, where we see people being more active and also accepting of people living with the condition in our society. And I think also, as well as the encouragement of people knowing their status, you know, knowing the need to get tested and also the need to do the correct thing to whether it be that you need to go on medication, but I think also importantly, if you are negative, continuing to be negative as well. So it's really been quite phenomenal to see how society, South Africa, has evolved over the years in curbing and dealing with HIV in the country as well as AIDS as well. But it's also been very, and I must also just mention, a few years ago we did obviously launch the treatment where the pills were then merged, where a person only took one pill a day as opposed to I think the 3 pills that were also taken for the disease. So quite an interesting journey. Yeah. But more specifically, let's talk about today what is happening here at the stadium. I'm just going to step out of camera, and Japan Matebula is going to just give us a brief a pan of what is happening as we are here today at the Dobsonville Stadium. We obviously are still waiting for the Deputy President, Mr. David Mabuza, to come and give the address today. There are buses, if you can just see there beyond the stadium. People are sort of trickling in, a bit of a late start, but things are definitely underway here today. We will have that national address here, and we will obviously at the back of the stadium. Unfortunately, we can't get a proper view of that. Testing stations are here. People are encouraged to come out. Anybody in Soweto needing to come and perhaps check their status. I mean, we as a crew have already adhered to the message of testing and knowing your status. We've been there, we've done our part, and people are obviously encouraged to come in and test as well. And I must just add, one of the things that we got, which was quite interesting to also get and quite nice to get, was the test that you can go and do at home, where you swipe in your gums and you can also test in the comfort of your own home. Obviously, it does help to have somebody there when you're testing, because anything can happen, and obviously the psychological counseling that becomes necessary once you feel that you need to talk to somebody, you know, that understanding psychologically of how to deal with HIV, and also just knowing that it's no longer a life sentence. We can live, and we can live long. Before I just go on, Blaine, I have a guest from Senex. She's going to tell us a little bit about today's program specifically, what is it that they have planned as an organization in commemoration of this day today. And I'll just speak to her. Thank you so much, Mematik, for speaking to us. Can you just please tell me, Steve, what is it that's going to happen today? What can we expect? When can we expect the program to kick off?
Thank you so much. Look, today it's really about commemorating World AIDS Day, as you have indicated. The program lineup is quite full. We are expecting the Deputy President to come in very soon. But we will first start with the dialogue that will be taking place now here. The youth dialogue, the Kalama HIV dialogue, and that on its own will then move into various activities. We're not only just going to listen to speeches and messages. Of course, we're also going to look at promoting a healthy lifestyle, and we'll see definitely sporting activities and various sectors. The people with disability, traditional leaders are here, LGBTI sector is here, so all various sectors, people living with HIV are here, and part of it is just to remind ourselves we have come a long way. Many people died, many people sacrificed, sides of struggle we've seen because people have subjected their bodies, but at the same time we have a long way to go and we can't be complacent, and this commemoration just reminds us of that.
And as a country, obviously, as an organization, are you happy with how far the treatment of this condition in terms of South Africans being able to access your treatment, and also the movement of stigmatization, how it has become better?
There's never a way where we can be happy, and also there's never a way we can fulfill all the needs immediately. That means the process must be followed. We've got a national strategic plan. Every 5 years we tell ourselves this is where we are as a country in terms of prevention, this is where we are in terms of treatment, and part of it is to then say, how do we fast track the response? How do we put more people on treatment? How do we get more people to test? How do we ensure that prevention is adhered for? We can't be happy when we have 15-year-olds and 20 to 24-year-olds being infected every week. 1,800 is a big number. We can't be happy when transgender persons are not accessing adequate or competent services. We can't be happy when decriminalization of sex work is not done and moved fast. So what we know is that there's so much effort. Our government has contributed, our development partners has contributed, and other organizations like Global Fund and PEPFAR have contributed, but many things that have to happen here. It's what South Africans can do for themselves, and that's what's important.
Thank you so much. We'll hope to speak to you later on in the day. Blaine, as you have heard, a very jam-packed program today, and also obviously the challenges, the infection rate that is going up by 1,800 on a daily basis. And I think those are the issues that obviously government will now have to deal with going forward. But we will be here during the course of the day, giving you the latest as to what is happening as well, and bringing you the latest events here at the Dobsonville Stadium out in Soweto. Back to you in studio.
Matlaka, you and the crew set a very, very good example for the nation by getting tested. Thank you very much indeed for your reporting and your good example. Matlaka Kumani, live for us in Dobsonville in Soweto. Thank you. Well, staying with World AIDS Day, we now cross to our reporter Lerato Thipa, who is in Port Elizabeth at the provincial World AIDS Day commemorations. Hey Lerato, thank you very much indeed for your time. What's happening on your side?
Well, as you can see on outside, people have begun to trickle into the tent where the World AIDS Day commemorations will be taking place. People that we have talked have said they're really coming here to get answers from government in terms of what are they going to do to try and decrease the number of infections. Also coming here to be informed about the various programs that the Department of Health is going to be embarking on to make sure that the people in this province are not part of the statistics when it gets to HIV and AIDS. So people coming here in their numbers, really to come and get answers from government this morning. But joining me this morning is the HOD for Health, Mr. Tobile, Dr. Tobile Vengashe. Let's first talk about the Eastern Cape. I know that the Eastern Cape is in the top 5 in terms of the AIDS statistics. What is the situation in the Eastern Cape like, and what other measures can be taken to decrease the number?
No, I think it's very important that today is an extraordinary day. It's a World AIDS Day. It is commemorated across the world. And in the province, we have made this particular day to commemorate right here in Port Elizabeth. I think the most important thing that Eastern Cape is amongst the 5th of the lower provinces, and the key issue, we came to the metro because the metros actually have one of the highest prevalence and new infections in the country. So what we've been doing, we've been here for the past 6 weeks. We're going to homes, we're going to communities, and we try to really make people aware, and we provide services, we actually test people. And during this period, we've tested about 10,000 people right in the Eastern Cape. And what's been very important is that we're still finding that men and people who have never really tested are not coming forward. We're finding that we're testing the same people all over again. And therefore, we are really appealing that more men must come forward. People who have never really tested must come in. The minister has always said we must test every year so that you should know your status. Yeah.
I know there is a draft to also take the services to the people. At the Men's Parliament recently, there was a call that maybe the services must go away from people, must actually go to the people. So you must go to their workplace, you must go to their places of their homes where they're comfortable. Is there a draft to take take the services like the mobile clinics to the workplaces, to their homes, in their more comfortable space for the men.
No, this is very true, because what has really happened during the NHI pilot, we learned quite a lot about how to take services away from clinics to homes. We've got the integrated school health program. One of the big events during this time is to really link the school with the program and actually make young people to be aware of the really have the knowledge so that they can protect themselves. So we're starting to work across departments and making sure that we're working in homes. We're using it very strongly, the community-based teams to really go up at home and not only just test HIV. We're also very important that there's non-communicable diseases like diabetes, hypertension that are becoming a problem, including the mental health areas. We are starting to work with the industries, and the mayor, we've had a briefing this morning where he actually shows that he's starting to work with industries so that we can take medicines and other drugs into the communities. What has been very exciting is an arrangement between ourselves and the Taxi Association in PE, where now we've agreed that we'll take medicines where the taxis are, so that the taxi drivers who have no time can actually get their medicines and keep the treatment on.
Another concern are the young people, especially young girls between the age of 15 and 24. Do you have a strong message enough to appeal to this young generation, the millennials, that are finding the whole sex education rather blasé, but do you have a strong message and a strong campaign to reach those target areas of the young people?
No, that's very true. And of course, young people now are actually on technologies, they're on WhatsApp and everything. And we have really started a new program where we're really putting the new technologies to help young people, especially 15 to 24, because these are the highest people who are actually at risk. And then there are a number of really programs that are really responding to the people, and that are actually starting to understand what young people want, and they are really providing them with the tools that they actually can understand and actually use. And I think it's very important that in the country now we're starting to find that HIV and AIDS is no longer a marginalized problem. People are starting to accept that it's a problem, and young people are starting to take very important decisions about using condoms and having safe sex. And actually the biggest problem now is starting to be the older people who still believe that if the wife doesn't have a problem, therefore they don't have a problem, and so they are not actually testing. I think we're making big inroads. The technology is helping us to find people, and there are more apps now that young people can use, and they can actually relate to the programs that they need to be supported with. Yeah.
Well, that was the HOD for Health, Dr. Toby Mbengashe, saying that in terms of young people, they are now making use of things like the social media, starting campaigns to encourage young people to go get tested, to use condoms when they are having sex. Also saying that in terms of the men who are the lowest ones that are going for HIV and testing, they are now embarking on a campaign to actually take the mobile clinics to the people. He said earlier on, they also have partnered with the Taxi Association. So now they're going to the people, they're going to the taxi rank, they're going to firms, they're going to where the men are and encouraging them to test. Also importantly saying that they're also going to their homes in their comfortable space and making sure that these men in the comfort of their homes get tested in the privacy of their homes as well. So progress in the Eastern Cape, but also a long way to go for this province. Back to you in studio.
Yeah, look, important initiatives indeed in order to tackle this issue. With regards to stigma, Lerato, I mean, stigma is one of the major hurdles, isn't it, in getting down to the bottom of this disease in terms of, aiding in finding solutions of how we can curb the rate of HIV/AIDS. What's the situation in the Eastern Cape with regards to stigma?
That is actually so true, because this week we did a story where we were focusing on a young man who actually got raped and they contracted HIV and AIDS. And in the process of that, we talked to some young people, I think from the age of 18 to 24, and they were saying they're not testing because there's a stigma around HIV and AIDS that if you've got it, you got it because you're being promiscuous or you're not leading a clean lifestyle. So many of them saying that also that when they test, if they don't want to test, because if they test, they might find out they've got HIV and AIDS, and they've seen how bad a person can look when they are infected. So there is a stigma, especially within the black community, that if I've got HIV and AIDS, I'm sleeping around. If I've got HIV and AIDS, I've got more than one partner. And then also for the men saying that, if I've got HIV and AIDS and I'm a man, that no woman is going to want me, that I'm going to be thin and sick, and then people in my community, people at home, my peers are not going to want me anymore. So I think, like you're saying, also just to try and address the stigma in our homes, in our communities, and also to try and bring in the church, which also has been highlighted as a key stakeholder in trying to address the scourge. I'm going to the church and encouraging young men that, that you can get tested, you can live positively with the disease and still live a normal life as well.
Indeed, Lerato Thipa, live for us in the Eastern Cape. Thank you very much indeed for your